we are going to turn it over to a conversation with her. And again, when we have break for questions in a couple of minutes, I'll answer any of the questions you might have. But I want to make sure that we have as much time as possible to talk about what being a visionary leader means, who Sharifa is, and some of the work that she does with Envision Fest. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to stop presenting and turn it over to Sharifa. So hi, Sharifa. Thank you so much.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much. First off, I need to say that I need a private lesson for all that you just saw. If any of you guys on this call, I think you should be really appreciative of all the information you just seriously gave, because that's intense and that's really good. And I think that we all need it for our businesses. So thank you, first of all.
Thank you so much, Sharifa. And thank you all for, being a part of the network that Sharifa has, for joining us today. And on that note, the first question I want to ask you, you have an amazing business that you started that gives you the opportunity to connect to women in business all the time.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about Envision and what drove you to start it?
So I always say Envision is a love letter to my younger self. I definitely, growing up, speaking with all my girlfriends, even recently during this pandemic, everyone's saying, oh my God, they had these amazing mentors. And for me, I never had an African-American woman mentor me and drive me the way I've been driven in business. My mentor, as grateful as I am, has always been a man. And I vowed that as I was coming up throughout the industry, that I would want to mentor kids and kind of point them in the same direction that I was in. I think growing up in Brooklyn, like I told you, I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I could totally ended up different, right? I could have been doing different things, being that I was given an opportunity. And I think one thing that we lack, even just coming up in this world, is opportunity. I was given an opportunity a long time ago, and I vowed that I would give someone else that opportunity. So Envision was birthed off of that. Envision is a women's, now and men's, mentoring program where young girls and guys can just get inspired by the women that I know, or the women that I'm trying to speak with everyone, and just doing different activations and encouraging them to build out their businesses and be entrepreneurs and work hard. But there's a fun way of working hard. So that's what it's based off of.
Okay, thank you. I really relate to that. I also was born and raised in Brooklyn. And I really, whenever I had the opportunity to connect with women that looked like me, was inspired. And unfortunately, sometimes it was so hard to access.
Exactly.
So these platforms mean so much.
Yeah, I had that conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. I think, unfortunately, back then growing up, it was more driven and dominated by men, right? Especially Caucasian men. So what we have now is something beautiful that we can now encourage other young women that look like us to be great. And I see women in positions that are it's just amazing to see women in these kind of positions that you can look up to. And I want for young people to understand that you can be whatever it is you want to be, right? Just put your mind to it and really focus, and find someone to mentor, because find someone to get mentored by, because it's so important for you to have that vision for yourself.
Yeah, when you said that, I thought instantly, there's this video I've seen of a woman named Tashonda Duckett, who's the CEO of Chase Consumer Bank. And there's a little girl who goes up to her and she said, "You're a CEO, I can be a CEO too." And so that creating that vision, letting people have that access, helps us to have vision for ourselves. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And so one of the things is you're creating accessible connections between folks to have that accessibility, to have that representation. But sometimes that can be hard to do in a virtual world. How are you doing it? How are you pivoting? What's been your biggest business changes throughout COVID?
I think it's about, first of all, throughout COVID, the biggest business change for myself personally was just stepping back. I think as unfortunate as this pandemic COVID has been, it's been honestly a good minute to breathe and to really re-strategize and rethink about. I think we've gotten caught up in the world where we're running so much, right? We're always on the go. We have to do this, we have to do that. And I just think that as unfortunate as this thing has been, it's been a blessing for tons of people, because you finally got a minute to sit and really think about and strategize on what you want to do for your life. So that's the first thing. In regards to pivoting in a business, I mean, it also gave us an opportunity to look at the business and really understand what we needed to change and how we needed to change. And do we really need to rush into doing anything, right? We've been having a lot of course, Zoom gatherings and conversations and talks and panels. But it's also about strategizing to be bigger and better for next year. I think for us, it's more about I'm a very in your face kind of person. I am going to be honest with you. I hate texting. Like if someone texts me, I'll like literally pick up the phone and FaceTime. It's the most craziest thing because I love the connectivity. I think that the magical part about being digital is that you can still feel connected. So it's a balance. It's also about building and finding a balance of both for me.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. And two things for everyone, just make sure everyone hit that and understood. As entrepreneurs, we need time off sometimes.
Yes.
We're constantly serving, we're leading, and that's exhausting.
We're also trying to keep up. Like everyone is trying to keep up with what they see is happening next. And instead of staying and being present, you're like, I was always like at least 5 days ahead in my mind. Right. And I think it also just gave me a minute to be present with all the things that you're dealing with today. Stop worrying about tomorrow. Be happy that you're in a position where you got the moment to think about what you want to do today. And that's what I think is so important about it.
That's a tweetable. If any of y'all are tweeting, that was a tweetable. And then to that point, taking the moment. So for instance, I gave everyone on the call, I gave you all some homework. As business owners too, we do. I love how you said you had to take time and re-strategize or look at the business. Yeah. We have to take the time to not just be so in the business, but also looking at the business.
What I want for people to understand is like what we were before is not the same as today, right? So when I say that you have to take time and re-strategize, you cannot think, and I keep telling people, if you've come out of this pandemic doing the same thing, acting the same way, something is seriously wrong because you have to like sit back and understand that things are never going to be the same. It's not going to be drastically different, but you're going to feel a difference in the way people work, in the way people operate, in the way people are treating you. You have to understand that. And I think it's important for us to pay attention at this moment on those things.
Yes. And I think it's also, so since you've taken that moment, it's important to be thinking about, well, what does the future look like? Mm-hmm. And have you started to think, many states, they have varied rules around reopening. There's different timelines. Yeah. What are you thinking for the business in terms of how you're going to run it for 2020, 2021?
Well, honestly, I think for both businesses, because I also own fashion trade shows, for both businesses, you have to be realistic, right? I think people want something so bad right now. And that's because we're in this like microwave world where everything is so instant. That it's not going to happen that way. I can tell you in New York, we're on phase 2. It's kind of scary for me, right? Everyone's outside. A lot of people don't have on masks. I don't know if they think that it's a free moment right now, but I think people need to really remember that there is this thing lingering, right? And you have to be extra cautious. In regards to the pivot, I think for this season, we are going to stay doing more digital focused things on all companies. And then, like I said, next season in 2021, we just come out with an event that makes sense for what's happening because we don't know. I think everyone is pushing for, okay, we're going to do these big events next year, but you don't know what the rules and regulations are going to be. We don't know how this thing is going to work out, right? And I think we're all just waiting to see. But for now, we're planning on still doing our event next year and still like making sure it's the best event of the year. And creating something that's special and unique towards our consumer.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up digital because I love to talk about that with founders and make sure that we're talking with other small business owners around technology and why it matters for business. Can you talk about some of the key tech tools that you use and have used to grow your business?
I think for me personally, and I'm like really low on the totem pole of using digital just because I get nervous around it. A lot of people shied away from social. I think Instagram is probably one of the best tools ever. I've seen brands launch on Instagram. I've seen brands soar on Instagram. And I think it's such a great tool to use for all businesses because you're able to tap into every age and gender demographic, right? So, but what I'm realizing now as well is like TikTok is it's a movement for every generation. So I think for me, it's more Instagram. That's what I focus on. Within our businesses as well, I focus on Instagram as well because that's where I think our consumer is. That's where I think that our community is. And we use that to market. We started using now, of course, because we're getting into the more digital platforms. We're using more of our website initiatives and like things like that. But we are now starting that phase. So
Awesome. And
yeah.
so since you are and you use Instagram often and it's been working, what are some things that folks in the room can take away as helpful tips on a platform like this?
Say, and I noticed this during this moment, know your community. My team hates that I use that word, but know your community. You have to know who you're talking to, right? I think that it's important for us to be able to, in order for you to sell things on a social media platform, you have to know your community and understand what they want and what's missing from them. And I think that that's the biggest tip. Know who you're trying to target. And even for newer companies that don't know who they're trying to target, kind of like scroll through and discover who you want to target and understand what they like and understand how you're going to attract them. What's going to be inspiring or inspirational for them to look at on your page. And I just say, know your community.
That is so good. And I couldn't have scripted it better myself because it goes with what we were talking about.
Yes, that's what I said. Exactly.
You have to know your audience. So really, for any of you, I'd be thinking about, are there any insights? If you do have Instagram, using a business account so you can look at the insights. Yes. They'll tell you things in there like the best time to post. They'll tell you the days. They'll even tell you the demographics.
I was going to say the demographics is important because, like, let's just say you're a clothing brand or a jewelry brand or a makeup brand. You need to know who, and it also gives you like the age breakdown, it gives you everything that you need to know about the person that's following you so that you can also attract other people like that needs to follow you. Yeah. So that's why I like it.
And so could you tell us other marketing strategies that you found really helpful for driving more business, whether that's on digital or on offline as well?
I am old school, so I believe in guerrilla. So I also think like just sending out email blasts. I know the girls on my team just started to do like newsletters. I think that's important to just kind of keep sharing information. Like you said, get on Google and make sure your name is first as a company, trying to make sure your SEO is like up to date. Those are the strategies that I work around. I'm very, very, very old school when it comes to these things. I think it's important. It's funny because I'm old school, but I'm also in a digital age. So I love using social media. That's the one thing that I think thrives off of everything. Even on Facebook, taking out ads on Instagram or Facebook, those things work as well. Because you start attracting new people that you never thought would even follow, the gram or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I love that. And again, when you know your audience, you're spending your money wisely when you're doing those ads. So it's all a cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who are on the call, not everyone put in the chat. If you haven't started a business yet and you're thinking about it, go ahead and put that in the chat. Yeah. And for Sharifa, as there are some folks who I'm sure in the room are thinking about changing their business model or maybe even starting a new business, what would you say about starting a business in this time? I
encourage it to happen now. I feel like right now is when you need to start new businesses. Like I said, you've been given, by the grace of God, a blessing to pause. I think people, even forget about business, I think people need to change their lives right now. Whatever, if you hated your job, you should start strategizing on how to get your new job. Or how to start your own business. I think now is the perfect time because there's so much access. People are home. And I think that, normally it's like people are moving all over, so you don't know how to email. I think I've gotten so many emails via LinkedIn. I've gotten so many DMs. I don't mind people sliding into DM if it's a constructive conversation and question. I think that that's probably the best way. And right now is the best opportunity because no one has no excuses. Everyone is home and everyone needs something to do. The people that are working, but of course they're scrolling on Instagram or they're going through their emails. LinkedIn is probably your best friend because there's always a connection. This world is like so small. There's always a connection. And I would advise anyone, if you are ready to start a business, now is the time. Just be very strategic and have a plan. and make sure that there's a strategy behind this plan, because it's so important. And, so many times we mess up because we're rushing. Now is the time not to rush. It's to think things out thoroughly and call on your friends. Like, call on your friends for help or advice. I'm always asking my friends, like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Picking their brains. It's so important, because your friends, your real friends, are going to give you like the truth. Like, that sounds like crap, or that can work, and they're going to always ask you questions that are going to either be for you or not for you. Do you know what I mean? And they're going to always be truthful. So I'm going to say now is the best time to start a new business.
I love that. And I'm also really glad that you emphasize how important it is that we share our vision.
Yes.
It can be really scary sometimes, or people think maybe someone will take my idea, whatever, but you need that feedback.
But you also have to go into it with a positive energy, right? You can't go into anything that you are about to do. You have to think about it and go into it with a more positive energy and think strongly about. Don't think negative. Don't ever think with negative intent. Once you start thinking with negative intent, it kind of clouds your judgment and clouds a lot of things for you. I say go into it, ask questions, talk to people about it, put that out there in the world that you're going to do this, and it will come.
Yes, I love that. And since you talk about energy, one of the things that came up in the chat, a question from Tiana Washington, who introduced herself. And I'm hearing a little echo. If you could mute whoever that might be. Ask the question. Okay, good. Ask the question, as a mental wellness company, how did you get to a space of quantifying your Envision business, and what would conversion look like for you?
Normally conversion for everyone else looks like money, financials. I think for me, conversion is how many young women leave there inspired and feeling motivated to build businesses and to really garner those relationships that they met within that space, within that time. That's what it looks like to me.
That's beautiful. I love that. And if there are any other questions, please do put those in the chat. We want to make sure we get to all of your questions. But I love that you said that. I love that the purpose is centered on more than money. And I think that is really important, because as business owners, money isn't always promised. It's not always consistent.
But also, I'm a firm believer, whenever you chase money, you never have money. People that go into things with a natural feeling or inkling that it's going to work and want to do things in a better way for themselves, I feel like always are successful, right? Whenever you go into something saying, I'm going to make X amount of dollars and it's going to pay for this and that, you're like already spending the money. You already thought about it. And it's just like, it just never works. I say go into something because you really love doing it and starting businesses that you really like doing. I made a vow to myself after leaving one corporate company that I will never go into something that I did not want to do, or if it didn't feel good to me. And that's the thing. It has to feel good to you. And that's where the energy comes into play. Anything that you do has to be impactful. It has to be representative, and it has to be a true nature to yourself.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So centering on that purpose is really what's going to keep you going through the changes of business as well. And the energy you have attracts. One of the questions that came up, okay, it looks like Vicky answered it. We're hearing questions about website. What do you use to host your website, Sharifa?
Oh my God, don't get me the line. My team is going to kill me. If I'm not mistaken, someone's on their WordPress. There it is.
WordPress. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so check out the different tools that are available as we're hearing questions about WordPress. Oh, someone put a comment. This is a great comment. Tanisha said, drop the mic on what you just shared. That is an awesome chat. So the last comment you made. Any other questions, please put your questions in the chat. We want to hear from you. And as you're typing those, I can ask a few more. We talked a little bit about the ups and downs in business. And I love how even just being here with you for not that long, I can feel your energy is very, you're present, you're positive, you're exuding good vibes. With so much change going on and so much of the stresses that come with business, how do you keep that? How do you stay encouraged?
Oh my God, I'm like a stress ball half the time, to be honest with you. But what I've learned during this COVID is walking for me has been a ball of release. Like, I walk every morning. When it first started, I was so scared to come out my house. And then I probably cracked. My husband wanted to murder me. But then I got introduced to a girlfriend. I got introduced to a friend through another mutual friend, and she started walking. So I started walking with her in the mornings, and that honestly has helped me. I consistently work out every day. I make sure I exercise daily to kind of keep my mind right, and I started meditating. So those are the ways that I stay focused and I stay positive. I also think about like the goals that I have, right? I think that everyone should set goals, and no goal to me is your goals shouldn't be limited. I think I set high bar goals. And when I mean high bar goals, I set goals that you'll be like, you're crazy, right? And I always write things out. I draw things out. So for instance, like my next goal, right? I want to move to New Jersey. I've drawn out my house, like literally drew it out in a book because that's what my goal is. I know what I want. And I've done that on several occasions. And so far it has come to fruition. So I always tell people to write things out, write it out and like really and truly practice what you like, think about it and envision it and like put that memory in your mind and it will happen. I know it sounds crazy, but everything that I actually have like written out or thought about, I've gotten. And
Yes.
the story about where I live now, there were these beautiful, you know, you grow up in Brooklyn, like growing up in Brooklyn, you live in an apartment building and it's just like the regular old school apartment building, Crown Heights. And I always wanted to live downtown Brooklyn. And I remember when all these big buildings were going up, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to live in that building. I had no money. When I mean $0, like I was like, I'm going to live in it. And I would go in, you know, the open houses. I go to the
Yes.
open houses and I go look at the houses and I go look at the apartments. And I remember I wanted to live in the same exact building that I said I was going to live in is the same exact building that I live in, that I purchased my first apartment and my second apartment in.
I'm so glad you said that. So a couple of things. I want to tie that back to the SMART goal framework. Having a process for how you set out to achieve your goals matters. So whether that's writing it down,
Yes.
attaching different pieces, and that helps you realize it. And when you said that, that just made me think about growing up. I used to babysit. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from Bed-Stuy on the Upper West Side. And I remember babysitting for this couple, and they would let me have food in the fridge, and they had cheese with cranberries in it. And I said, when I get some fancy cheese, that's how I know I made it.
Yes.
And now I can get any cheese I want.
Exactly. I think it's so important for people to like put that energy out. You have to put that energy because that's what's going to inspire you. And that's what keeps you motivated. What keeps you motivated is the things that you know you want to do in life and the goals that you set for yourself. And like I said, don't ever put a limit on your goals. Like, that's the only thing that's going to stop you is yourself.
No goal, no limits on goals. I love that.
Goals.
We have a great question from Nelina, and she says, are there any issues or pivots that you made when you first started building Envision, and has it panned out as you expected exactly?
Of course. Listen, when you start a new company, there are going to be people that believe in you and people that don't. And we live in a world, unfortunately, where people are followers. We don't have a lot of leaders. So the one thing that we ran into was people were like, you know, well, who's doing it? And it's like, why do you care? What are you doing? You know, what do you want to do to give back to these girls? What do you, which right now I think is probably the most memorable moment because right now everyone's going to want to do something with us because we so happen to be trending right now. Do you know what I mean? And I want people to pay attention to that. Take this message and understand that a trending moment now for people is your life story, right? So use it to your benefit. I remember when we first started Envision, there was one company particularly that said no to me. And now they're looking to speak to me. Then there was one company that supported me fully. And now we're partners with them for life. And I always want to like thank Champs, the guy's name is Jason. He believed in us from the beginning. He gave us everything that he worked with us. He like believed in the vision. He understood. And like, shout out to him. Shout out to the team. I came up with the idea and the team kind of like all came in together and they worked so hard. Like Envision is Envision because not only for me, it's Envision because of the team. And that's the reality behind it. So those are the trials you're going to go through. There are going to be people that say, I don't believe in what you're doing. But you also have to ask them why, you know? And there are going to be people that will be like, you know what? I'm going to jump on the bandwagon early. and you ride with those people and you talk to those people continuously, because those are the people who are going to support you.
Yes. Yes, and you know how to pick your people. I have to say that we're just in the process of putting this together. You have such an awesome team. And one thing I do want to call out, because it's about 3:30, so I know we have to respect your time. But you just briefly mentioned you have another business. Yes. And I know some of you might have more than one business. It's really important to have a solid team if you're going to play in more than one space. So I do, if you'd like to comment on that, or if you have any other closing thoughts, I think that would be really important for people to hear as we wrap up.
So how I feel about it is the team is everything. I think that you have to respect your team and understand them and speak to them. And it's kind of like a family. You're at work more than you're at home, right? With your husband or your mate. And I think it's important for you to know who's in your circle and who's for you and who's not for you. On my entire company, I think everyone on our team works extremely hard, and I am so valuable. Like I don't know how to explain how much I value them, because without them, none of it will happen. Without without Lucia, who's my assistant, none of this would happen. Like, she keeps me, I say yes to everything. She keeps me in the frame of, no, you can't do this. And it's about people caring about you and your well-being, right? She keeps me from doing things and working overtime. And she's like, you can't do that to yourself because you're draining yourself. So it's a mixture of so much different emotions. I can only tell people on here who have businesses, find people that you can work with, that respect you, that you can value, and work as hard as anything I ask the team to do, I would do myself. And that's so you have to really and truly put all those things into perspective. And I know a lot of people always say, well, we can't find anyone. There is someone out there. You just that energy out, and you got to put the word out, and you have to talk to friends and talk to people and be open. Don't always go with the norm that you think is going to work. You have to be open and surround yourself around an amazing bunch of people. Because for the past 2 years of Envision and the past 10 years at Liberty, I've surrounded myself around an amazing, amazing team. Like, I don't know how to explain it to you. I shout out to all of them: Giselle, Lucia, Ronnie, Yasmin, every single person that I can think of, Sarah, Audrey, everyone, John. There's so many people that is on the team that work throughout everything. They believe in me, and that's what makes me keep going.
This is so powerful. I'm hearing in the chat, if you, some people are quoting you. They're saying gems drop. I saw someone say mic drop. There's so much value that's been shared, and I just really appreciate you taking the time to share with us. I'm sure many of the folks on this, everyone who is present with us today, you will receive a recording, but I'm sure they want to continue to connect with you and connect with your work. So where can everyone do that?
You can connect with me on Instagram, because I'm only one person. It's at Sharifa Says, and I'm going to just leave it here and say, set your tone. And when I say set your tone, I mean, set whatever it is goals that you want. Set whatever it is you want in life and that you dream of. And stop dreaming small, dream big. So it's Sharifa Says and at Envision Fest. I hope all you ladies can join us at Envision Fest for 2021. But until then, follow us on Envision Fest on Instagram, on Twitter, on every platform possible, so that you can keep up with all the things that we're doing.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for sharing your time with everyone in the room today. Everyone, have a great day, and we'll connect with you offline.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. Bye.
Bye.